Hey everybody, it's Tony Adranya here, back with another edition of the IU Film Room. Appreciate you guys checking me out these last few film rooms for Indiana. Unfortunately, I come to you today with quite an ugly film room. If you were able to watch Indiana this afternoon, not a lot of great stuff happening. Fortunately, I actually got called into an impromptu meeting at work. Yeah, you don't hear those words too often, and had to miss about the last 6 minutes, and did not miss much. So, was excited to get that impromptu call this time around. But all joking aside, it was an ugly performance from Indiana. My last couple film rooms have obviously been pretty positive because IU looked pretty good. Today's the exact opposite. I'm looking at the offense only today, just because I thought the defense was pretty solid. They had some breakdowns here and there, but more so than anything, the offense was the problem. It was the lowest amount of points scored in Archie's tenure, and yeah, just overall was not a good performance from the offense. So, we'll look at some offensive things that I saw that I don't like. Some things that are obviously reared their ugly head when IU played an opponent of Texas's caliber, especially on the defensive end. Yeah, and we'll just talk about spacing and then really the big thing was just the misses around the rim and what might have caused those. So appreciate you checking me out. I'm hoping to keep this one a little bit shorter. We'll see. I'm saying that before I start, so we'll see as I dive into these clips. But appreciate you watching as always. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Adranya. Subscribe here on YouTube. Bookmark IU Film Room. Do all that good stuff. Appreciate you watching. Let's dive into the first clips. So the first thing I want to talk about with IU's offensive woes today is something that's kind of concerning to me. Is that Texas had IU scouted very, very well, and I mean very well. They knew every single thing that they were going to run, and why that scares me is because the Big Ten is probably the best scouted league in the entire country. So IU's got 20 games this year in the Big Ten. Teams are going to have them scouted. So the fact that they've really only had 2 games so far this season, Texas had them scouted very well. And we're going to dive into a couple ways that I saw Texas had them scouted well. So for right here, we'll start with this clip. IU standing on offense, as you can see. But now I want you to watch this right here. So basically, Texas knew IU runs this action where when the ball gets swung up top and there's 2 guards, which are Armand and Al here, they know that they're going to send one through, which is going to be Armand in this case. But they know that when Armand cuts back door and goes through here, he's not cutting with any purpose. He's just cutting for the sake of cutting. So what does Texas do? They actually just pre-switch this. So this guy's just going to stay right here because they know Al's going to try to come up and get the ball. And they know that Franklin is just going to try to cut through to this corner. So this guy right here really doesn't even have to move because he's already on the help line. And so as we see here, it's exactly what happens. They pre-switch. Right? Now IU's in a predicament. Trace catches the ball. Race catches the ball and he travels. So yeah, they're just able to pre-switch that and were scouted very well, but they knew IU wasn't really cutting with any purpose. They knew exactly what they were going to do. So their defense was literally able to stand in the exact same spot while IU was moving without really any purpose, and it resulted in a turnover for IU with a travel on Race. Here's another clip that just shows how well that IU is scouted. So this is a basic action that Indiana runs. You're going to see it. But as IU gets set up right here, so they're about 2 seconds into their offense, you're going to hear on the broadcast, you're going to hear the Texas coach screaming, watch the duck in, which he's talking about Jerome Hunter ducking in here. So listen up right here, and you'll hear him saying, watch the duck in. Davis, he had. Whoa. I thought maybe you had Nate right there. So basically what he's saying is to watch Jerome Hunter right here. He's going to set this little down screen, and then he's just going to turn and duck in. It's a play that IU likes to run for Jerome, and they think he's got a good matchup in the post. So Texas really, they knew that was coming. Again, it was just a good way to show how well they had IU scouted. He knew Jerome was going to have to duck in. So now Jerome, instead of catching this on the block where he wants to catch it, he's now pretty high outside, maybe 12, 15 feet out here catching where it's a lot harder to make a move. Now, he did get bailed out with a foul on this call, but it's just a way to show you that Texas really had IU scouted well, which created a lot of problems for them on the offensive end. These next few clips, I'm going to walk you through just a few different sets that IU ran and things that happened within those sets that really just created IU's offense to stagnate. They're good sets if they're executed properly, but they were not. So on this first one here, this was actually the first play of the game that IU ran right off the tip. I love it. It's called a Spain pick and roll action. It's basically a screen the screener, but I'll show you why it didn't work out for IU. So basically this Spain pick and roll, what it's going to be is you've got Trace setting this ball screen right here. So Trace sets his ball screen, and then Al sets his screen on Trace's guy so that Trace can go to the hoop as Rob is coming off of this ball screen here. Well, what that does, if Al sets a good screen here, as Trace cuts here, this guy guarding Al has to make a decision if he's going to stay with Trace as he goes to the block, and then Al can cut up top for a wide open three, or he can go with Al and Trace is open on the block, or this guy has to come over and then you've got Franklin open in the corner. There's a lot of different options there. But unfortunately, what we see happen is right off the bat, IU kind of set the tone because Al does not set any sort of screen on Trace's man there, thus resulting in, that guy doesn't even have to, the guy guarding Al doesn't even have to hedge at all on Trace. So then Al's not open for any sort of shot. Now you've got Al Durham, who's supposed to be having a wide open three-pointer on this play if it executed properly. He's got to catch it, 25, 30 feet from the bucket. That's not what you want. So right off the bat, you kind of set the tone. Poor screening, not executing properly, contributed to their offensive woes. This next play is a baseline out of bounds action, and it's actually one that I really like, minus one little part of it. And you'll see that here as I run this clip for IU. So it's a baseline out of bounds, 4 low. IU runs everything 4 low. So basically what you're going to see here is you've got Lander, who's one of their best shooters and attackers and creators, more so than anything, throws the ball inbounds, and then he's going to come off a screen from Race right here, and then he's going to come off a dribble handoff right here from Trace Jackson Davis. So his guy's got to do a lot of chasing, not tracing. He's got to do a lot of chasing, and then you've got a guy in the corner here. What I don't like is I think this should actually be Rob Finney here because it's a shooter in the corner, so it makes that guy be more attracted to staying there and creating more space. Galloway is not a shooter yet. Not that anybody's really a shooter in IU right now if you watch the game today. But what I don't like is after Race sets this screen here, I would like to either see him replace Trace or clear out this way or anything outside of what he does. So we run this clip here, and what we're going to see is, so Lander comes off this screen. His guy's chasing. Race is going, whoa, I just moved the video. How about that? Race is going right here to the block. If Lander wanted to drive this, he's going to run right into Race. The spacing's really bad. Instead, what should be happening is Trace hands the ball off here. He's rolling to the bucket, and Race should be replacing him right there. That should be the action that's happening. That way, Lander's got a lot of space to create. If this guy wants to commit, then he can kick out to a shooter. But right now, they just have really bad spacing. IU's got 3 guys in the same general vicinity, and they're really easy to guard. Now, Lander ends up chucking one up here, but he doesn't have any space to do anything else. The guys from Indiana. Not great look. And to me, I think it's because the spacing is pretty bad on that play. I like everything about that play until Ray sets that screen and then goes right to where Lander should be driving. So this is another baseline out of bounds play that Indiana runs a lot of. That, again, it was bad execution. So all this is going to be is this should be a way to get Trace a look on the block. And IU has run this for as long as Archie's been at IU, and they've run it really well. So all this is, it's going to be a basic flex action, which is back screen, down screen. So Finney sets a back screen for Trace as Al comes up here. Al receives a pass. Trace comes off that screen. Al can look at Trace, and then Race is going to set a down screen for Finney to come around. So it's a basic flex action, not a lot of craziness, but watch Finney's screen. This play is screwed from the start because who'd Finney hit there? Not a soul. So now Al gets the ball. Where Trace is at right now is where Finney should be setting the screen. And instead of that, you've got Race that's trying to battle this guy down here when he should be on this block. And now Al is looking for something to do with the ball. So Race goes and sets this down screen for Finney. That it looked like Finney was more worried about that. Finney does ultimately end up getting the down screen and gets a decent look off. But again, it's just poor screening. If you don't hit anybody on your screens, your offense can't be run. You can't get anything out of it. So it was just another poorly executed play from Indiana. So this play here, I'm going to show you a couple things that I don't like about it as well. Actually, really only one thing, because I think there's actually an option for IU to score. So right here, at this point right now, I really like the spacing that IU is going to end up having, because you're going to end up having Finney spacing to the corner. You have Geronimo that should be spacing to this corner, and you've got Durham and Trace in a dribble handoff here. So what you're ultimately going to have is you're going to have this entire side of the floor, or you should, for Al to try to create with Trace possibly rolling to the bucket. But what you're going to see is this action right here is really for nothing. IU is not looking to score in this action. And you'll see as Durham gets his ball here, he has an opportunity to turn the corner, but it's not part of the play design, and so he doesn't. So we pause it here. Look at that. That's a lot of space that Al's got to work with there to try to get to the bucket. Maybe Race's guy commits to him. He can dump off to him. But instead, all he's really worried about is Finney's coming up here, and they're going to execute a dribble handoff, which you should run offense to score, not run offense just for the sake of running it. And it kind of looks like that's what IU's doing here. Like that. Because now they're going to execute another dribble handoff. Well, now the spacing's bad, and now they're looking to try to create off that. I mean, this isn't modern offense where you have two guys that are just clogging the paint, and you've got three guys around the perimeter. It's bad look. IU's not able to really do much out of that. I would have much rather seen Al try to create off the first action where he had wide open spacing and an opportunity to attack the rim, rather than try to attack out of this alignment where there's just guys clogging the paint. And this last one here that I want to talk about is it's actually good offense that IU runs. And this was another part of why Indiana struggled on offense today is even when they ran good offense, they could not score. And I actually really like the action that IU ran here. So we're going to see the ball swung around. So we're going to see this dribble handoff action. Again, this is a lot like that last clip I showed you where there's a lot of space to create. There's a dribble handoff. There's a lot of space to create here. You've got a guy in the corner. Again, this should be a shooter in that corner, though, to make this guy commit more. Nonetheless, it's a really good look that IU ends up getting. It's called a roll replace action. So as Trace rolls to the basket here, Jerome Hunter's guy has to help on him. He's called the tag guy. So he has to help. It's his responsibility to basically try and stop Trace from getting the roll until his man can recover to him. So what Jerome Hunter does is it's called roll replace. He replaces to the top of the key, and he's going to get a really, really good look at a wide open three-point shot. He's supposed to be one of IU's best three-point shooters. This is just absolutely a shot that Jerome Hunter has to be able to knock down. So that's last but not least on just why IU's offense was not able to be effective at all today, because even when they got good looks from the perimeter, they couldn't knock them down. And now we're going to walk through probably the roughest part of this IU film room, certainly the roughest to date. So I have 15 clips here of close misses that IU had, and we're just going to kind of walk through these. I'll talk through things that I think could have been done differently. So right here, that was another bad missed screen. Race Thompson didn't hit anybody. Still gets the ball, pretty good spot. Doesn't hit anybody again on his screen. Jerome doesn't really hit anybody on his screen. Still gets the ball in a good spot. Race is on the block. He had a great game 2 nights ago. Just misses it short. You can almost live with that if there wasn't 14 more of these. So Trace does a nice job hitting somebody on that screen. So now he gets the ball in a close spot on the rim. Notice when he hits somebody on the screen, he's able to get a great look. Unfortunately, he just wasn't able to knock that one down.
And they asked Bruce to play the national anthem, and he did with the first event there at the Kimmel Center.
That's an awesome
Life
story.
just doesn't get much better.
So here,
To play the anthem, sing the anthem.
Trace catches the ball in a really good spot again. He's able to get to his strong hand. Just misses it short.
Well, that's what I was
Again, IU got the ball in a pretty good spot.
The first couple of games this season with all the weird practice.
Al makes a nice move. Just hits the back of the rim from 5 feet.
Some awkward games from teams.
The same way that Michael Jordan did something about it.
So that's a really nice screen from Race. And what that does is it makes the defender that's guarding Race commit to Franklin. So notice that, once again, setting a good screen creates a great look for IU. Now, does he finish? No. But it creates a great look for him. Just didn't finish. But screening is a big feature of this team, and they're not a very good screening team right now, and they've got to get better if they want to be able to execute offensively.
Never turned his back to the action. No, he was just going forward. Doesn't matter which direction you're going. As long
Galloway,
as
just
forward.
freshman, gets kind of muscled down
How's
low.
Greg Brown doing?
Look, this is another really good screen from Trace. He hit somebody. His man now has to commit. Now when Trace dives to the rim, even if he doesn't get the ball, he's got other guys that now have to commit to him and pay attention to him when he sets good screens. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen every time right now, but he sets a good screen. Now it gets Armand open. Now he's still open in the post. Gets the ball where he wants it, just not able to finish.
Right? Tremendous athletes. Mom Tanya, 3 years at UT track and point lead. All you need is that 3 in this chair, and it's a 15-point advantage.
Have you read
So that time, now notice, Trace did not set a good screen there.
Standing Up by Steve?
And now the paint is clogged. Nobody really has to commit on Texas. Finney still gets the ball down low, but really not a good look. Again, screening is so important for this team.
And, just one of the foundational pillars in the business of.
Notice that. Jerome set a good screen. IU gets a great look. Not able to finish. This one hurts just because Finney just has to be able to finish that. Can't miss that point blank. Fast break.
He's got other books too, right?
Into the Wild.
Yeah. Read that one too.
Another great look. Missed it at the rim. Al even going to his strong hand.
Absolutely. John Prine.
Now we got Trace at the rim. Gets to go underneath. Just not able to finish. It's a rough day for him.
Just absolutely spectacular.
One more time.
That last tour he did before the pandemic, the celebration of the last walk.
Armand gets right to the rim. Not able to finish. Trace turns over his left shoulder, puts it up with his right hand.
I'm not sure.
Not able to finish. Now Galloway gets to it with his left hand. Not able to finish. Like I said, that's 15 clips right there in a short amount of time, but that's 30 points IU left right at point blank range. They make half of those. That's 15 points. It's a completely different ball game. So yeah, I mean, as you can see in this edition of the film room, there's a couple things that concern me. One is that IU was scouted really well, and they didn't really have anything to counter that. When teams take something away, what else can you counter with? They didn't have anything like that. Now, it's early in the season. They might have things that they could put in later down the line, but that concerned me that they didn't really have anything to go to when Texas was taking things away. Something else that concerned me was the screening. If IU doesn't screen well, they're not going to be a good offensive team. That's point blank, period. You can see it on here. When they set good screens, they at least get good looks. That's half the battle on offense. Now, finishing is a whole other story. These are all Division I, 4-star, 5-star guys. They should be able to finish at the rim. But they have to be able to screen well. And we saw in these clips that when they screen well, they got good looks. When they did not screen well, usually didn't get good looks. A couple other things that we talked about in this film room was, some of the stuff that IU runs. They actually have better looks at the beginning of the offense, but they're not even looking to score. You run offense to try to score points. In those early actions, they got to be looking to score. They can't just, be running offense for the sake of running offense. And there's a couple of different things there. The last thing is, I showed you on that baseline out of bounds play, the spacing, with Race going right to the ball side block that Lander could have drove to. It's been a staple of what Archie's done. He plants somebody on the ball side block that's getting the screen. Not really sure why, but I would love to see that guy do more roll replace type actions where, Jerome Hunter got to wide up and look at a three, which leads me to my last point. When IU does get good looks, especially from the perimeter, their best shooters, they've got to be able to knock them down. You've got to be able to extend the defense. That then gets good looks for trace and race. But when you're not able to extend the defense at all, it's going to be a long night. So, yeah, obviously not as positive of an IU film room here, but when IU loses by 20 some points, not a lot of positives to take out of it. But the positive is it's a new day tomorrow. IU will be facing off against Stanford. It will be a great test for IU again. So we'll see how that goes. But as always, appreciate you watching. Again, if you have any feedback, certainly throw that my way at Coach Adrani on Twitter. Right here in the comments of whether you're on iufilmroom.com or YouTube or a forum or wherever you may be. Certainly appreciate you watching and checking this out. So until next time, folks, I'll talk to you later.